Welcome. It's the Long Coat Mafia, the internet's most hated and mafia-themed geek podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the internet's most hated mafia-themed geek podcast, the Long Coat Mafia podcast. It is I, the Reverend Godfather, the show's main host and frontman. And before we start this episode, I'd like to give a special shout out to Reverend J. Leal, a fellow podcaster and friend of the show. And the reason why I say that is because in episode 200, I forgot to give him a shout out. He notified me off air, and I do apologize, Jay. I know you listen to the show, and the thing is, guys and gals listening, let me give him a plug right here, right now. He runs the site known as LealLegacy.com. He just recently went through a rebranding, and so did his podcast. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Check him out, show him some love, buy some of his merch, and the shirts that he makes are real great. They fit well, and he has something there for everyone. So check him out. You're supporting an entrepreneur, so please check him out. Listen to his podcasts. That he had wide variety, and they're geeky too. He's got a YouTube channel. I'll at least link your website in the description, and let's get into the show right now. As you probably guessed by the title of the show, if you missed it, we're going to talk about Captain America. Wait, that's not it. That's not it. We're going to be talking about Captain Controversy. No, that ain't it. Not Captain Controversy. Captain Marvel. That's it. We're going to talk about Captain Marvel. Wait a minute. I have to apologize. That bit sounded better in my head. Really, it did. And before we get into everything about Captain Marvel, my thoughts about the movie, because yes, I did go see it. I have to at least go down through the list. And that is one. Again, yes, I did see the movie, and I wanted to see the movie because, well, I can't really rant and rave about the controversy behind the movie or surrounding the movie without seeing the movie. 2, I'm not going to tell any of you to go watch this movie. 3, I'm not going to tell any of you not to go see this movie. So, that being said, if you choose to see this movie, that's up to you. If you choose not to see this movie, that is also up to you. And, like I said, I've seen the movie, and let me talk about that first. I enjoyed it. It's a 7 out of 10. At best, and it's not a solid 7 out of 10 or strong 7. It's a decent 7 out of 10. It's a comfortable ranking for it and everything else. And before I continue, I must say 2 things in regards to it. 1, the opening tribute to Stan Lee was wonderful and beautiful, with all the wonderful photographs that were shown containing Stan Lee from him filming the various movies and some of his roles that he was in, and some of the screen photos that's been all over the place throughout his career. It was wonderful and beautiful, and it was right there in the forefront, especially the thank you to Stan Lee. So that was a beautiful tribute. And let me talk about his cameo for a minute. And the thing is, it was a fun cameo. It wasn't him playing. Let me say this. It was, for those, yes, spoilers. It wasn't Stan Lee playing a bus driver. It wasn't Stan Lee being a security guard. It wasn't Stan Lee being a disc jockey at a strip club. It was Stan Lee being Stan Lee. And what is Stan Lee being Stan Lee doing in this movie? Reading a Mallrats script. That's right, he was reading a Mallrats script. And which causes, as one person has stated, a paradox in the MCU. because, as they explained it, Stan Lee's character in Mallrats, or his cameo in Mallrats, the Kevin Smith movie, is that Stan Lee plays himself in this movie. And Stan Lee is, again, like I said, not just playing himself. He referenced himself as the creator of Spider-Man, the Hulk, the Fantastic Four, all of which are part of the Captain Marvel universe, the MCU. So that, in essence, is the paradox, as they say. Or the question of which came first, Stan Lee or the creation, or the whole chicken versus the egg, type of paradox. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, Stan Lee creating the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or what have you? It's like that sort of thing. And it was a fun cameo. It was a wonderful cameo. It was a funny cameo. And seeing it, I got Kevin Smith's little shock photo that he put up, and saying that he was kind of mind blown that he finally got referenced in a movie, and it was like, wait, what? So, but overall, it was fun. It was interesting, and I want to say this: the de-aging effects in regards to the Samuel L. Jackson, who plays, for those of you who do not know, plays Nick Fury in this movie, and also Clark Gregg, who plays Phil Coulson. That's right. For those of you longtime fans who refuse to see this movie, Phil Coulson makes a appearance in this movie. It's not a cameo. It's a regular role for him, and I was happy to see him make a comeback. And it was fun. The de-aging was wonderful. The fight scenes were fun, but my biggest concerns going into this. Let me also go into what I had an issue with this in regards to the movie, and that is with this movie, Brie Larson's character, Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, she, in reference to how she gets her power set and everything else, and for most of the movie, she has a device attached to the back of her neck to limit her powers. Again, spoilers. Even though you find this out in or early on in the film, and about almost through at some point in the movie, close to near the end, that she removes that restraint, and it goes from maybe a level 4 or 5 to a level, she hits maybe a level 10. And the thing is, as many people might say, she has military training. She just shouldn't, there was no way of her going, wait a minute, I can now do this, or I can do this. In essence, she becomes the Rey of the Star Wars universe. I use that reference because a lot of people who are Star Wars fans said that Rey had no training, yet she immediately knows how to use the Force. And her, even though Carol Danvers, Brie Larson's character, has military training in both from the Kree and from the United States military, she doesn't really know how to use these powers. These powers are new to her, or I should say the baseline powers are new to her. But when she goes from that level 5 power set to a level 10 power set, it's, hey, there's no, hey, I could do new stuff. And one of the things she comes away doing is flying, which is the kind of the up and away type of flying. And when she discovers that power set, or comes into that power set, there is no how do I do this? How do I fly? And again, a lot of you out there might say, hey, wait a minute, she is a trained military pilot. But there is a difference where there is a slight learning curve between a fighter jet and a Quinjet in the movie sense of things to maybe a passenger type of airplane. But doing all that is way different than flying on your own without the aid of a aircraft. Heck, as one person used an example was Tony Stark learning to be Iron Man, learning how to fly in regards to Iron Man. It was a great example. And the other thing I had a slight issue with was basically the fact that when she's taking out a whole mess of Kree ships is the fact that she's going Yahoo. She's literally, as she's flying, taking out, she's Yahoo! Which to me came across very Little Orphan Annie Skywalker. That's right, I just made a Star Wars The Phantom Menace reference. That's right, she came off as a Little Orphan Annie. And because for those of you too young to know about Star Wars The Phantom Menace, Little Orphan Annie, pretty much when he went into full-blown combat, he said, Yahoo! He cheers a Yahoo and says, now this is what I call pod racing. It had the same feeling. It had the same weight. So, it just didn't fit to me. It was a good scene, just that Yahoo didn't fit. And I'm surprised a lot of the reviews I've seen after and during certain things, no one, granted she had in essence a helmet on and could have over the speakers said Yahoo, but it just said, to me it seemed like you shouldn't be able to say Yahoo in a vacuum. But that is just a minor thing, and it could be explained away that she had the helmet on and had the microphone or the radio attached somewhere in the helmet. But that's just a minor thing. A lot of people, including, I would say, when I went in to see this movie, I thought it was going to be strongly pushed in a feminist type of way. I'm proud that it wasn't, or happy that it wasn't. A lot of people have complained that in regards to some of the scenes that were probably released, that girls can't play baseball. That was not in the film that I heard. If it was taken out later, I don't know, but it wasn't there. But there was various scenes. There was no I'm doing this because I am a woman type of ordeal, in any way, shape, or form. Let me say that right now. Even though it was kind of pushed in some of the campaign and the trailers, it wasn't in the movie. Happy to know. What was in the movie was a set of her getting bullied and everything. That set was the big push in regards to everything. It was her getting bullied in certain aspects. People treating her because she's a girl, not exerting herself, even though there were girls in batting Little League during when this was taking place for a while. Though it was there, but it wasn't. That's not the message that was being pushed. What was being pushed, or what I got out of that little montage, was when you're getting bullied, when you fail, get back up. Get back up. Do it again. Do it better. Prove those in doubt wrong. That's what I got out of that. And that is a better message. That is a more equal message that can transcend across the board. That when you're getting picked on, get back up. Take control. you have that ability, and they are doubters that you can't do it. Prove to them that you can. So, and like I said, I cannot knock that message in any way, shape, or form. And to kind of gradually move on into the controversy about it, let me say this. Let me touch on it because I'm going to forget about mentioning it. The aspect of Samuel Jack Nick Fury getting the patch and getting his eye removed. It turns out it was the cat. And yeah, spoilers, folks. It was the cat. Now, the whole aspect of that is weird. It's, as a longtime fan of comics, and hearing about, Nick Fury, how do you lose an eye, even back in the days before Samuel Jackson being Nick Fury, there were rumors that Nick Fury was a failed attempt at the Captain America program reboot, or the Super Soldier reboot. And that Nick Fury was in a way a Captain America-esque type of person, and he lost the eye in a fight. And it just seemed weak and it seemed disappointing, at least to me. It was funny, it had its jokes and everything else, but it just seemed weak. That's pretty much, I'm sure I'm forgetting other things that happened in the movie, but I think I covered the most important stuff about it. I will say the majority of the movie taking effect in flashbacks, even though it probably worked for the story, it didn't seem strong enough, and it felt, on ranking of things, this might not have been the best Marvel movie, but I'm sure it wasn't the worst. But it did seem right. It felt like, because I'm making Star Wars references, it felt like Solo, a Star Wars story. It was okay, but it wasn't strong. It doesn't make me want to go back and see it. Now, I know there's been a lot of controversy stemming from this movie, and it's not because of how it was marketed. It comes from pretty much Brie Larson herself. And that is basically back when some people are saying it's roughly the Wrinkle in Time movie. Some are saying it's when she and Samuel L. Jackson were filming King Kong. It's a little bit confusing to nail exactly when it was said, or initially said, but when I saw the footage, it seemed like she was at a award ceremony maybe a year or two ago, and she came out. Now, like I said, this is what it stems from, this particular instance. And I'm going to try to clear up this controversy the best I can. It's not going to be the best, but hopefully I'll try to flush it out and explain the controversy. The controversy, again, is stemming from the best way I can tell, this award ceremony, and her saying that she noticed primarily the people that were interviewing her were older white men, and the people that were reviewing her movies were older white men. So she had a study done, and it came out that she was, in fact, correct. It was like 60-65% white men, and the remaining 35-40% was women of color, men of color, and the smallest percentage was like women of color. And one of the other things that she stated, again, this was most of the people who are coming out ranting and raving in regards to this, said it was Wrinkle of Time, and they point reference to her stating that the fact that it wasn't for adults, it was kids. Adults shouldn't have been watching this type of movie. It should have been strictly girls and girls of color. And the fact that people of color are not seeing these movies. They're not going to these movies because they're not, they're not being the people reviewing them are not like the people, or I want to put it correctly and in the right context, because the people who are reviewing the films are not looking like the people that the film should be marketed to. Therefore, the folks that should be going to that film are not reading. They're not opening up the newspaper and saying that, hey, this person reviewing this movie doesn't have the same type of skin tone as I do, even though that they might like this movie, but because they don't have the same skin color as I do, therefore I'm not going to see it. Which a lot of people have stated that's the wrong logic. When most people read a review either through a place like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes or their local newspaper, they're just reading the review. They're not looking at the person or the person. They might be looking at the person who wrote that review, but they're not looking at a photograph. And most newspapers don't put a photograph of the person doing the review, at least maybe in a smaller market, like in a small town in West Virginia or Kentucky or Missouri or Montana or in California or in New York. If it's a small town, they're not going to put a photo of they might not put a photo of the person doing the review. And because of that, her statement saying that how the whole review system is dominated by men, white men at that, she came out swinging, saying that she wanted strictly to be interviewed by either men of color, women, or women of color. And this outraged a lot of people. That everybody should, not so much what she said, but the fact of the matter is that she said it. And I can agree with that sentiment somehow, or that line of thinking, even though it could be the wrong type of thinking. The reason why I say that is because celebrities, whether they're a sports star or a sports celebrity, a music celebrity, or a TV and or movie star, meaning when it comes to that sort of thing, the main two being, or even a high-end YouTuber like PewDiePie or Markiplier or whomever you follow on YouTube, if you follow somebody on YouTube. Now, the first thing of a celebrity is that they have to make something or do something. Meaning, if they're a basketball like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, they have to go to the game. They have to practice for that game and play that game. Therefore, they are, I won't say making a game, but they are participating in a large event. Or if they're a singer like Elton John or Ariana Grande, they have to make music. They have to make a song. They have to make the album. Not physically make the album, but they have to sing the song. If they play an instrument, they have to play the instrument. And if it's an actor or an actress for a TV show or a movie, they have to make that TV show and or movie. Their second job is to sell that particular product that they made. Meaning someone like LeBron James has to sell basketball in a way, at least in some way, that he, if he's going out representing the NBA, he has to say, hi, I'm LeBron James, I'm from this team, I'm a basketball player, come see the game this Thursday night, at, whatever stadium he's at. When it comes to a singer, they sell their album by appearing on Jimmy Kimmel or a place like that. Or in some instances, they could say at a concert. You could say at a concert, they sing that song to promote an upcoming album. It's like, hey, our latest album is in a couple of months. Please, buy it when it comes out. If you like the song, buy the album. And they sing the song. Therefore, they're, in a way, selling that album. And when it comes to a actor or an actress, they are also selling their show or movie by going on, again, a press junket. Kind of like what Brie Larson and many other actors and actresses do when a movie or new show comes out, or a new season of a show comes out. They make the rounds on, again, like Jimmy Kimmel, Good Morning America, and so forth and so on, saying, I have a new show coming out, or a new movie, please go see it, it's about this, and them and the person interviewing them talk about the movie. And what Brie Larson was primarily doing was, I'll say this, they have a fourth thing, and that a lot of folks tend to, or celebrities tend to sell, and that is what their interests are. And that could be a dangerous thing. And you have many people out there that refuse to mix politics and their personal lives with their professional lives, because they believe that that what they are in regards to their celebrity status, they could easily influence the public at large. Meaning they don't want to tell you, the public, what to think. They would rather you think on their own in most cases. And if they do something in regards to the public eye, they rather be something good, like Make-A-Wish, or visiting kids at a hospital, or something, or helping raise awareness of adopting puppies and kittens at a local shelter, for example. Something along that lines, or going to a homeless shelter and feeding the homeless. And doing good work. That way, if that influence is spreading and people see them doing good work, at least it's making folks do something positive. They're like, hey, LeBron James is helping, kids at school learn to read. Therefore, maybe I should go help, teach kids how to learn to read, or people who don't know how to learn to read. So, and that's a good thing. That's using, in essence, power responsibly, or their status responsibly. And what is happening is they are also saying selling themselves, or doing influence, is that a lot of times celebrities can be sponsored. And this is when you get that gray area, and sometimes you'll hear me say it, that this is a very finicky aspect, and you have to ask the question, not so much out loud, but at least to yourself, is this person being sponsored, and they're saying what they are saying because they're getting paid to be saying that, or they actually believe what they are saying? Meaning that, for the most part, if they are a speaker at an event, do they really believe that, or are they getting paid to say something along that lines? Meaning that they're just paid to show up, say hi to a bunch of people, and go home, and that's it. Now, I'm not saying they do this all the time, or they don't believe this. I'm just saying you kind of have to question that mentality. And there have been many people I've spoken with personally when they said, oh, this person was at this event doing this. And I've said, well, you have to question, were they there because they actually believe in that cause, or were they there because they were paid to be there? And they were like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, a lot of celebrities, if not 99.99% of them, have an appearance fee. What happened behind the scenes in regards to them showing up? Were they, if they are there because of an appearance fee, you could say they were paid to say that. Yeah, but then again, you have to question: were they paid to say that, or did they show up to uh, say what they believe in? And again, you have that power. And in regards to sponsorship, you see this more so in like sports and maybe music a little bit, because when it comes to music, you let's take Elton John, because he's a better example of it because it's happened with him. And for a long time, his tours were sponsored by Diet Coke. And for those of you who've been to concerts know that there's a big jumbotron to show what's happening on stage to the folks that are in the upper cheap seats. And what would happen was Elton John would have a Coke can on the piano with Diet Coke facing, in essence, front towards the audience. And every time the camera person came by showing Elton John and the piano, that Coke can was front and center, in essence, showing off, saying, I drink Coke. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but something like that helps Elton John pay for gas for the buses to get where he's going, and travel expenses or hotel expenses. Maybe something like that. And it helps offset some of the cost. And for sports stars, sporting celebrities like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant or whomever, they usually like, hey, LeBron, if you're going to a signing at this sporting convention, wear this Under Armour shirt, during the convention or the events you go to promoting your sports team. And if you do, we'll pay you $50,000. Yes, I'm probably lowballing it. And while you're there, at least have this bottle of Gatorade or Powerade at the table. It will give you another $60,000. That it's a way of advertising and using the player as advertising. That's why in some instances when they speak to a sports star, their answer is a little bit neutral sometimes, because they are sponsored by like Under Armour or Gatorade or Nike or Adidas, and they don't want to lose that sponsorship as well as their status on the team, because they could go from a first string player, which is the person that's primarily on the court or the field at all times, down to maybe a third stringer, which is someone that's rarely picked to go on the field. Now, when it comes to sports, music stars and TV stars, if they don't tote the party line sort of thing, or like the whole guns are bad type of ordeal, or name your political stance. Sometimes when you see a whole mess of celebrities talking about certain things at roughly the same time, it's kind of hard to say if they're doing that because they actually believe that, or they want to keep their jobs or be open for the next job. It's a way for them to say, hey, I'm saying this that way because everybody else in Hollywood is saying this, and I want to be able to get the next gig and still be relevant. Because if I say otherwise, I might not get that next high-paying job. I might not be able to be in that next blockbuster movie. And what happened with her when Brie Larson was saying, I don't want to be interviewed with, I want to be interviewed more by women and women of color instead of white men, and she was predominantly saying that and being talking about that in her interviews, meaning she was putting that more so in the forefront than whatever movie she was currently been in or being in. And in this case, it was Captain Marvel. And it wasn't just that. Up until, let's say, about a week prior to this movie coming out, maybe a few days, it also came out that in one particular article that she came out and saying that she didn't like the Avengers Endgame cast, and they didn't like her. Whether or not it's because they were billing Brie Larson as this most powerful character in the universe, or because she just plain had an attitude. You hear various aspects of that. But the primary thing that started the controversy was her talking about the aspect of too many white men reviewing her films and interviewing her during the press junkets. And people will start to focus in on that. And what she was saying, so all eyes were on her. And because of that, Disney and Marvel were not saying, Brie, you got to cut that crap out. You got to, hush down, tone it down. Just focus on the movie and talk about the movie. That's it. Talk about the movie. Don't talk about, yes, we understand this is a concern. We'll try to help with that, but just calm down. Talk about the movie. And they didn't do that. So a lot of that kind of grew to the fact that Disney, you got to rein her in. If you don't want to do it because you got to get anybody to rein her in. Somebody in the movie to rein her in a little bit. And a lot of people on YouTube that were big influencers were talking about what she was saying and focusing in on what she was saying. And during this time, again, all the way up when the first trailer was launched, and maybe even prior to that, especially when I know it was happening, especially when all this was coming to light. One of the things that people love to do is dig crap up on Twitter. And one of the things that they found was a tweet by Brie Larson stating that she was at a TSA at an airport and she got checked by a TSA agent. And soon everything, she's in the suite, she said everything went fine. But at the end, the TSA agent asked her for her number. And the fact that she also made reference to that it's hard being a woman because of this. And somebody replied stating that this TSA agent just asked you for your number. You could have said no. And she went on a tirade saying, in regards to that, women are attacked daily. And she reiterated her point, stating the fact that it's tough being a woman. I'm not going to be the first person to say yay or nay in regards to that. But many women came out saying that, hey, guess what? I spoke to a strange man today in regards to a bus schedule or about a product at a store. You know what? I didn't feel attacked. And last night at the bar, somebody bought me a drink. I saw the bartender pour the drink in front of me. And guess what? The guy approached me. I didn't feel like he was a creep. He asked me if we could hang for a little while. I said no, and he went about his day. So there have been countless people, going after Brie in regards to that tweet on both sides. And because her tweet, when that came to light, and what she was saying about the people interviewing her, it was like not a pebble in a pond. It was a rock going into the same pond. You had a lot of pushback from people saying that, Brie, we understand that this character is a woman. We don't have this. I'll say this: the sensible people that were issuing pushback were saying we have no problem with Captain Marvel or Miss Danvers being a woman. We don't have a problem with this being a female superhero-led movie. What we have an issue with is your comments. And on the other side, you had more and more people coming out on Brie's side saying, yeah, men shouldn't be watching this movie. Men shouldn't be watching this movie. More little kids should be watching this movie. So that, which caused more pushback on both sides. Caused the side that was against Brie Larson pushback even harder on both sides. And there were some calls of boycott. And in regards to that, with the weekend box office being about 160 and change $1 million domestically, and about $455 million globally, it's not a success. And about that number, that's this week's, that's the actual numbers this week. But when the whole thing, this controversy was pretty much at its peak. I want to say that at its peak, Disney came out and first released that this movie is going to be roughly, opening weekend is going to be $180 million. Then a few days later, they dropped it down to 160. Then, because Brie was still doing what she was doing, they dropped it down to 120. And by the end of the week, or so, give or take a few days, they dropped it down to $80 million for the weekend. Again, domestically, it's at 166, I think it is, which is a pretty good domestic week one stats. It'll be interesting to see how the movie performs in week 2 and 3. The reason why I say that is because many movies that have come out that have a lot of controversy around it have that big first week, and the second week it drops down and severely, meaning that week 1 everybody went out to see it just to see what the hell is the controversy all about, and they go to see it and they realize, you know what, the hype on both sides is blowing out to the proportion. This is just an okay movie. I'm not going to go back and see it next week. And the second week, it could be $30 million. That's it. And the week after that, it could be 15, and so forth and so on. Well, we just have to see how things roll over the next couple of weeks. Now, to continue with the controversy is the fact that what stemmed from it was Rotten Tomatoes. Now, let's talk about Rotten Tomatoes for a moment. With this movie, because of Brie Larson's actions, people went to Rotten Tomatoes, which is a review aggregation site. And what they do on this, like I said, it's a review aggregation site. And at one point, they had, part of their site was, do you want to see this movie? Yes and no, and why? And what they did was, because the fans were so outraged, the number of people saying that they wanted to see this movie was maybe originally at 80-90%. And because of Brie Larson coming out and saying her comments about white men reviewing the movie, so forth and so on, a whole mess of people went to Rotten Tomatoes, went to that part of the site saying, clicked that no button, wrote a review, and stated, well, I don't want to see the movie, this is why. And that number dropped from, let's say, 85% all the way down to roughly 35%, give or take. And they said, Rotten Tomatoes said, because of trolls. Now, a lot of people, this triggered even more people who were against what Brie Larson was saying. Now, let me just say this. One of the things, because I'm going to forget about this, some of the people that were on the side of diversity and this being a female superhero were coming out and saying, there's always been superheroes, Marvel's always had diversity and everything else. Yes, I agree with that. Marvel had a lot of comics out there dealing with diversity. The X-Men was a prime example of that. How it kind of had a whole group of people that were hated and ridiculed in regards to them being different. You had people represented as like Daredevil, who is literally a blind superhero, and so forth and so on. You had this diversity. And you had a lot of people who were superheroes who were female and so forth and so on. But to put it in kind of food terms, up until maybe a few years ago, I want to say about, let's say 10 years ago, we had everybody who was a comic book fan was eating out of a bowl, atypical cereal bowl, if not a decent size mixing bowl full of cereal. And they were eating that cereal, and that diversified cereal, let's say, with an atypical average spoon. And they were enjoying it. They were eating it. It was fine. Now, up to a few years ago, that bowl turned into a 5 or 10 gallon bucket of diversity. And that spoon was no longer a spoon. That spoon was a small little shovel. And we weren't feeding ourselves, folks. We were being force fed. And a lot of the fans in the comics saw their favorite characters being switched to a different type of narrative. And you had a lot of YouTubers speak out on that, which we've mentioned on the show many times before. And many people who spoke about this forced diversity have come to say that, hey, we don't mind the diversity, just that right now it seems forced and it's being shoved down our throats. And that's what, again, a lot of people were forced out and letting everybody know. And that's what a lot of people are saying on Rotten Tomatoes, that if everything is true, what's being said online in the news and what Brie Larson's saying, then I'm not going to see this movie. And what Rotten Tomatoes did, once it hit about 35%, give or take a point or two, they shut that section of the site down. And the other day, which is Friday the 8th, or I should say late Thursday night, when this movie finally came out and a lot of the restrictions were lifted in regards to review, YouTube, Rotten Tomatoes, allowed the fans, the people, to put their reviews on the site. And what happened was, there was, to kind of side on Rotten Tomatoes, they had a glitch, and all those reviews that were shut down now, or those points saying that they weren't going to see the movie, now was adjusted part as a review. And they had to kind of delete 50,000 opinions off the site, because they weren't reviews. They were just the ones that saying that they weren't going to see it. Now, I have Rotten Tomatoes up. I have the Captain Marvel section up. It is sitting, as of right now, on Sunday, an 80% from the professional side of things, and a 58% audience score. Now, we'll get into the professional side of things in a moment. But the reason why I say that is because it came to my attention that, or people have come out and said that there were, because, again, Rotten Tomatoes this time around, blamed trolls for causing a lot of the bad reviews. And what somebody found out, now I have a kind of a screenshot here, or a picture that somebody did showing what happened. That, because last year with The Last Jedi, Rotten Tomatoes said there were bots leaving negative reviews. And back in, there were issues in 2016 with Ghostbusters. But over the past few years, at least with Last Jedi, not Last Jedi, The Last Jedi, they claimed bots, and this time around they claimed trolls. Somebody found at least 6 reviews from supposedly 6 different people, all of them saying the same people. Like, there's one in this photo that I have, one reviewer's named Brandon Kiley, Kiley, and his review says, I'll make it very simple and clear. Captain Marvel is really worth a watch. It's just entertaining, visually impressive, exactly what it was meant to do. Just keep this in mind. It's an origin story. So don't go looking for an overstuffed complex story. It's just an action movie and it goes on, but another one that they put up or part with it is a Cameron. I'm not pronouncing the last name because it's I'm not going to go that far. It says the exact same thing, and there's 4 others reviews saying the exact same thing. If to make it clear, I'll make it clear, simple and clean, promoting this, saying the same thing. And what somebody also found out, I'll link it down before. Like I said, this is all reviews. Those were bots putting up the same review. And some people have also put on that tinfoil hat and said that, and there's no proof to it, that people or Disney is hiring people to just buy tickets for this movie. There's no proof for that at all. I've looked into it and nothing. And there have been people reporting to the fact that YouTube is suppressing views or videos coming out against Captain Marvel. I don't know how true that is, but that's what they're saying, or how true the reports are. One congressperson wants to, again, I don't know how true this report is, wants to ban all reviews, personal reviews, which if that's true and she tries to do that, there will be an outcry because there's the whole aspect of freedom of speech. I have to kind of look into that to know more. But something else that oddly came up in regards to Rotten Tomatoes, and that is there was a podcast released by Sci-Fi. It could be sci-fi.com or Sci-Fi Wired. It's owned by the same company. But they had a podcast posted up a few days ago. I want to say Wednesday the latest. And what was talked about was how reporters have to play ball. Now, I downloaded the full episode. I went through a minute after that little bit of that quote and a minute before. And there's nothing that says that kind of would alter that statement any way, shape, or form to change its context. So, that being said, I am going to share what this person said on that podcast. That means this is a quote. It's about 55 seconds long of what this person said and the conversation he had with the other hosts on this show, the other host that was on this show. I will leave a description to the full episode if it's still available on sci-fi.com or wherever it was. If it's still available, I have the link. I'll post it up in the show's description for all of you to download and listen to and everything else. I'll say this. The only editing I did was to snip out the quote. I did not sew anything together. This is that quote and that conversation in its entirety. It starts at roughly the 53-minute mark in the podcast. But I do recommend you listening to the whole podcast if you want to listen to it and get the whole context of the show. But I am going to stop my conversation right now, stop this recording, and insert that clip so you can hear what this person said in regards to reporters having to play softball in order to keep their status to have their reviews posted up on Rotten Tomatoes. And here is that clip.
But here, all right. So here's the actual reality.
I was going to say, like, have you been on my mentions lately?
Here's where we actually are in the industry. If you want to talk about quote access media, every single person that wants to have access to things early, that wants to get access to things so that traffic is drawn to their site, will on occasion. Everybody at this podcast, everybody in our industry, occasionally has to play softball. Occasionally has to look the other way a little bit. Everybody has to do it.
Wait, we're turning what? Like a movie that's bad?
In the sense that, I hated a movie, but I won't say that I hated the movie. Or an actor behaved a sort of way, and you don't want to, put it out there that happened.
Right, because you might not get the next review,
right.
next gig.
So to some degree, everybody in our industry that is a part of this quote-unquote access media has to sort of decide which battles they want to pick, right? Which are the ones where my voice is the one that has to get said.
Now, again, that was the clip. That was said. That's their exact words. I did not edit that clip in any way, shape, or form. So take it as you will. And I do recommend you going to our show notes, finding the link, and listening to the whole episode and having your own opinions. Now, that being said, that's pretty much the whole controversy about it. Again, it'll be just me rambling on about points I just said, like Brie Larson saying that she didn't really like the cast members in Endgame when she was there, how she was treated, and everything else, and because there's other things I could go into, especially what Samuel L. Jackson said, but because the controversy primarily surrounded Brie Larson and Rotten Tomatoes, this is what I wanted to cover. This one I think I believed. I don't know how well I tried to explain the controversy or if I did a good job. That way I hand it off to you. Did I do a good job trying to explain the controversy? Did you agree with the controversy? Because, again, you had a lot of people out there that took what Brie Larson said and twisted it for their own gain, so to speak. You had a lot of people on the side against Brie Larson that twisted what she said against her. And then you had a lot of people on the other side that were on Brie Larson's side in a way, and kind of reverbed that aspect that they took the whole, I don't want to be interviewed by white men. They took it to the fact that, yeah, we don't want any man or white men in particular watching this movie. When in fact, a large demographic of people who watch Marvel movies tend to be white male. So, again, I'm just doing points, and again, I'm probably siding with those who are kind of against Brie Larson, but I just wanted to convey what the controversy was and my thoughts after seeing the movie. I had no issues with the movie. It was way different than a lot of people were saying. And when it comes to the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, the user reviews, let me say this as well. Is Rotten Tomatoes removing reviews? Kind of, sorta. They're not showing a lot of the 1-star and 2-star reviews because of they don't want to show it. And you have a lot of people just going onto Rotten Tomatoes who never seen the movie, don't want to see the movie. They're leaving 1 and 2-star reviews just to get that score, that 55% score, 56% score, to go down. That's what they're doing. And are they being trolls? No, they just want to share their opinion of why they don't. They're not going to see it. Why you shouldn't see it. But they're considered trolls. Yes, it's annoying. Can they be considered trolls? Maybe. I'm not saying that if you don't want to see it, don't go. Please do not go to Rotten Tomatoes and leave a review like that. I do recommend. If you don't want to see the movie, don't. If you want to go to Facebook and tell everybody why you don't want to see it, go see it. Tell them that way. And you might have a larger audience that way. Just don't go into Rotten Tomatoes and do it like that. You might not get a chance to be able to vent your viewpoint that way. That's about it. Because this is a conversation, and if I got a lot of the stuff wrong or I didn't fully explain the controversy the best way, please, I welcome your insight and your side of the conversation. You could do so by emailing us at longcoatmafia@gmail.com. and letting us know. We do read emails on the air. We'll be more than happy to have those emails on air. And let us know your side. Do you agree with my viewpoint, or that celebrities have a type of power and influence over culture, that they try to influence us in a way? Do you agree with what Brie Larson said in any way, and the fact that she should have? Or do you agree with me? You could let me know. I'm always open to your emails, and especially if the emails are interesting, I'll be more than happy to read them all. You can also leave us a message on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/The Lone Coat Mafia Podcast. And while you're there, click that like button, because we put exclusive videos on YouTube, on our Facebook page every now and again, because of how YouTube tends to deal with a few things. As well as we have a YouTube channel. You would have to type in the search bar Long Coat Mafia Podcast, and we will come up. And once you select us, please hit that subscribe button. That way you could see any exclusive YouTube videos that we put up that we feel that might be too long for Facebook. We put them there. Not to mention our podcasts like this episode tend to go on YouTube as well. So if the only way you're able to listen to our episodes at your place of employer is through YouTube, therefore this is a perfect way to opportunity to listen to our show. So click that subscribe button, click that bell if it works, and enjoy our past episodes. Watch our videos while you're there. We have a lot of interesting stuff for you to watch there. Let's see what else. As per getting our our other social media is our Instagram page and our Twitter pages. Both share the same username, and that is Long Coat Mafia. We tend to be more active on Twitter and nowadays on Facebook. So please still, you can leave us direct messages on both Instagram and Twitter. And when we go to places, we tend to post up where we are on Instagram and what we're doing. So what else? We do have a Mixer.com channel, and for those of you who don't know what Mixer.com is, it's kind of like Twitch. Allows people to stream games and other things online. And we do have a like I said, we have a channel. It is LCMP, and all those letters are in caps. So subscribe to that, and when we start to gear up our streaming games, you'll be notified when we do so. And I gotta at least let you guys and gals know that we are streaming on our Xbox One in regards to those games. And what else? I said Twitter, I said YouTube. We are, if as per our show, if you're like to listen to us, if you're listening to us through a mobile device, we are available on your desktop. If you'd rather listen to us on your leisure through your desktop or laptop computer, we are available through iTunes. Just search up Long Coat Mafia and we will come up. If we're also on iTunes, because it tends to be finicky. If iTunes somehow goes, we can't, we're having hiccups, we're not going to let you download any episode. You could find us on Stitcher Radio. You could find us on Spotify. And you could find us on our main site, which is thelongcoatmafia.podbean.com. And you can find all our episodes going straight to the beginning when we started. And we have lots of great interviews and panel episodes and live event episodes. So there's plenty of stuff to listen to. You can download and listen to on your leisure, at your leisure per se, or you can stream them on the site and listen right then and there. That's your choice. But if you would rather listen to us while you're out and about in your vehicle or what have you, we are available on Apple Podcasts, and we're available on Google. I'll say Google Play because I think they're switching over to Google Play Podcasts. But you're able to listen to both listen to us on both Apple products and Android devices. Plus, as usual, we are available on Stitcher, the Stitcher radio app, Spotify app, plus where podcasts are found, as well as the Podbean app, which I recommend because it allows you to go all the way back to our first episode and listen to how far we came and how good we are dealing with recording and everything else. So that's about it. I believe I did cover everything I wanted to in regards to this. So if I missed anything, please email the show and I'll be happy to make changes as I go. So again, thank you. Have a great week, and I'll see all of you next week.
You've been listening to the Longcoat Mafia Podcast, the internet's most hated and mafia-themed geek podcast.